Yes, you are now listening to the sound of Sports Reports is Ordered. And chicka 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 1-2. I am your DJ, DJ25. Fresh out the hot box. Do me a favor, y'all. I appreciate all the love. We love all the compliments. But do me a favor, like and subscribe. It's all free. Keep it that way.
Free 99.
Yes, sir. But with me, I have the one and only New Jerusalem.
You're
Shout out to Millville. Get on my level, ho. You know what I'm saying? VA's finest. Retired vet.
Keep
Proud
going.
military father.
Keep going.
Proud girl dad.
Keep going.
Foot on your neck.
Keep going.
Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
Don't do it.
The takeover. The break's over. It's mythological. Yeah. We are
It's
here.
good.
Sports Reports is ordered, and we got a whole lot to talk about tonight because I know y'all been watching these games this weekend, and we are in championship weekend. It's in our focus. Oh, man, a lot of people out there eating some crow. I'm eating some crow, too, because I really believed in the Bills. You know, so I really believed in them. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is, so I guess we will start there.
Yo, can you talk about wide right?
Yes, as a Florida State fan, the two worst words in the English language when combined.
Oh, and it was so fast. Like it went right. You know, sometimes it's slow. It just is like it's like the NFL had a remote control on the football and made it go right. Whatever. I'm capping. Yo, but when he kicked it, because sometimes I like to drink, like to partake in, alcohol. It's always funny when it's like a sobering moment in somebody's life. And I was pretty, I was niced up yesterday. Had a nice little Sunday. I mean, long weekend because all the snow and everything we had here in the East Coast. I had a lot of time just at the crib.
Right.
So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead, have a couple drinks, watch some football.
Right.
And when he missed it, I was in the screen. Oh, he missed it! He missed it! Because that stand up, it was like the same way when Tom Brady threw the pick at the goal line, or not Tom, when Russell Wilson threw the pick at the goal line. I remember jumping off my couch. I rarely have that reaction. He's like, so I'm a Falcons fan. When the Falcons lost, I didn't have a physical reaction to it. I just was like, I can't believe what I just saw. But it was slowly building up to that. This kick, I thought it was automatic. I think it was inside. It was inside 50. I think it was maybe 42, 43
I think it was
yards.
43 or so. Yeah.
That's for kickers today. If you polled the league and did the math, kickers are probably 82% or something crazy from 40 to 45. So I was like, okay, this is automatic. And then Mahomes gets the ball back and they go from there. Good game, tough game.
This is the reenactment of my reaction. Son of a bitch.
Listen, sometimes I like making a pick and being right. I love to argue and be right. I love to debate and be right. I do. But sometimes when you're wrong, you're just like, you know what? I picked against Kansas City 2 weeks in a row.
Me too.
I'm not saying what I'm going to do the next time we record, but it just was as I was watching the game play out, I was like, this guy really is different than Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the moment, and we talk about it with a lot of quarterbacks, and we'll get into the Brock Purdy talk. Obviously we'll sprinkle in some other quarterback talks. It's they're all basically built the same way. They're 6 foot to 6'4", 200 to, you have some anomalies like Josh Allen, 235, and all these guys are just huge. For the most part, they're pretty much the same guy. They throw it about the same distance.
Well, you got your Bryce Youngs too.
And then you have your Kyler Murrays, but Kyler Murray has exceptional arm talent. So you have things that kind of set you apart.
Right.
But for what Mahomes does, and I kind of fear for Alex because I saw something today was like, imagine being a Bills fan, you had to deal with Tom Brady in division for damn near 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the heels of that, you run up against Patrick Mahomes seemingly every year. Even with that, you had Joe Burrow
Uh-huh.
in between that, so it's like you don't even get a break. Maybe you get a Justin Herbert. Maybe you can win 19 like Cat. Okay, Carl Anthony Towns, 58 points, 19 for 25, 10 for 12 from three. Into the third. Okay, back
Mm-hmm.
to the regular schedule programming. Uh, Sometimes like you look at a game, you're like, oh, this team lost it, they didn't do this. I think it just was a matter of everybody that could make plays made plays, and it's gonna fall on the foot of the kicker for just missing that opportunity to tie the game up. And it's unfortunate, but
Yo, if you looked at the stats of this game without watching it, like you were out with your girl or something and you couldn't get eyes on the game and you came home and you saw the box score, you would be like, yo, how did Kansas City win this game? Buffalo had the ball for 37 minutes. You know, Buffalo ran 31 more plays than Kansas City and only had 7 more yards. Patrick Mahomes came out yesterday and he said, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hove. You know what I'm saying? He came out
to the
here,
OV.
even when he was off, because he had some early throws that was off back of the end zone and everything, but he was still in control. And, you know, somebody asked me this morning, you know, hey, I thought you said Buffalo was going to win. What was the difference? I said, well, you know what? Kansas City had Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and Buffalo didn't. That's the answer. You know,
Gino Auriemma, we got Diana. They don't.
yeah. You know, Kansas City punted once. You know, we talked about Millville. Shout out to Millville. Pacheco didn't play when they met earlier this season. 15 for 97, 6.1 yards a carry. You know, Buffalo had success early. They ran for 182 yards because that's always the question. Can Buffalo run the ball? Yes, Buffalo can run the ball, but this is what happens.
Josh Allen got you
Quarterbacks get all
72
the attention. Quarterbacks get all the attention. Quarterbacks get all the money. So at some point, teams say, Josh, go win us the game. Even though we don't need you to throw a 70-yard pass. Just do it anyway. And therefore, Stephon Diggs, I'm sorry. If you're going to do all that bitching and whining, you got to catch the ball. You know what I'm saying? It happens to the best of us, but you got to catch the ball.
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in when you have a legitimate argument, like, yo, I need to get more targets, I need to get the ball, I need to get more involved, and then you make the natural mistake. Like, you're gonna make one. You're gonna make a mistake.
What did he end up with in that game?
Something like 3 catches for like 21 or 27 yards.
21 yards, yes. And I saw a stat. I don't know how far back it went. I think it went back 5 weeks. But it was between
Shakir.
Yeah, him and Shakir. Shakir had 40 more yards than him on something like 42 less targets. It was something like that.
But is the wide receiver position? I know it's a talent-based position,
right?
But is it an effort position where you just have to work to get open?
Yes.
And when you're frustrated, how hard are you working?
Well, that's what made players like T.O. so great.
T.O. was always open.
Yeah, he put the same effort into blocking as he did trying to get open. You know,
60 for Cat.
Like when I look at, let's see, there you go. And when I look at Stephon Diggs, I see somebody that's either he's just done with Buffalo. I don't know if
they probably could have moved them a year ago.
Right. I don't know if it's a Josh Allen thing per se. Like he just doesn't mix with get along with Josh Allen, but he's just ready to leave Buffalo. I know that much. You know, we remember the incident after the playoff game last year against Cincinnati. You know, like, would y'all want me to be happy about losing? Like, nah, bro, that's not it. You know what I'm saying? But you're one of the leaders of this team. In the same way, Granted, much smaller level, but the same way that people come up to me and be like, "Yo, 2-5, what happened to Buffalo?" I can't be like, "Fuck you, get out my face."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just be like, "Yo, I was wrong." You know what I'm saying? So you take your hat off to your opponent and you move on. You know, so like I mentioned, Buffalo, 37 minutes time of possession, right? On third down, I don't even know what to do with this. Buffalo was 7 of 14.
You should win that game.
Kansas City, 1 of 5. 5 third downs in the whole game. So that tells you that
How
it was
little they had the ball.
Buffalo's defense, not forcing enough third downs because Kansas City only punted the one time. And then Mr. Logical,
I'm
what was
listening.
what was that fake punt?
Honestly, I think I was out grabbing food and I missed that part.
So I think what happened was, from what I was reading after the game, teams have like certain, if we see this,
Like a look.
this is what we're going to do.
Like when Pat McAfee talk about like the Palomalu getting in the gap, he's like, "We're supposed to run this fake," and then Palomalu got in the gap. I was like, "Nah, we're just gonna kick this."
Right. And he so clue number one was Damar Hamlin ended up with the ball. But what made it even worse was Kansas City had 10 men on the field and Buffalo still couldn't convert. And it was with 10 minutes left in the third quarter. There was no reason to gamble like that, even if it was something that you think that you saw. Like your defense just got to get a stop because we come back to the quarterbacks, and all I've been hearing all day is Josh Allen choked again. Josh Allen can't win the big game. He can't beat Mahomes, but I got news for you. Not a lot of people can beat Mahomes.
They haven't
This
done
is
a lot in the playoffs.
I mean, he's got
Tom
3
Brady and
playoff
Joe Burrow,
losses.
only two guys. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
Tom
got
Brady
3 play.
twice.
Yeah, he's got 3 playoff losses. One was with like no offensive line. 2 were in overtime to Joe Burrow
And
and
Tom Brady.
and Tom Brady when
In the
D4
Tom
jumped
Brady
offside.
one, yeah, the Tom Brady one, they had the game won if it wasn't for the offsides call.
Right. So, let's put some perspective on these things. I am not going to make excuses for Josh Allen because he let Spags dictate to him, what he was going to do. He turned into Mr. West Coast offense. He fumbled a time or two that he got lucky. He threw what should have been a pick by Snead, that was dropped. So Josh Allen definitely did enough to lose this game. But the defense only made Kansas City punt once.
Yeah, I'm looking at this fake punt. I don't know. 4th and 5 seems like a lot if you're
Yeah.
not throwing it. If
Yeah.
you have a fake on with a throw, but they had 2 gunners on the left side.
Yeah, I think they just came up to the line and made an audible. I don't think the call was to fake the punt. I think they came up to the line, saw something. Maybe they saw the 10 men on the field.
Yeah,
And
but even with that, it's like you should still go for 5 yards. You should go with the throw. Like even
right.
your audible should have been like check it to, throwing it to the flat.
Right.
Because the run,
Yeah,
those guys are
Kansas
already
City was
there.
giving up the flat all night. Josh Allen, like I can't blame him. I know it's easy to look at it and be like, because we
I
talk
don't think
about
there's
it.
really a blame. I think it's just a matter of there was like opportunities to make plays for each side, and one guy and his band of brothers, being Andy Reid and his team, they have just been known, yes, because they have Patrick Mahomes and they have Kelsey, and for those years they had Tyreek Hill. They just seem to make the play, and it's like you have to be able to do that. Josh Allen, he had the play
He
2
had to
years ago
play. Diggs dropped it.
to Gabe Davis. He had it 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That could
Yeah.
have changed like the whole trajectory because guys re-sign after you win playoff games. They stay. Like you get an opportunity to play another game. the guys that were getting torched in that Buffalo game, I don't know if they stay if Buffalo wins against Kansas City because there were so many holes in the defense. You would have to address it,
Mm-hmm.
but because they won and they went on, like you don't really think about it as heavily. But if that's your last bit of film you have, is like this dude Gabe Davis was running wide open through the slot all night long, and then maybe that puts Kansas City in a position where like they lose a couple players here and there.
And Josh Allen almost hit Shakir on a similar play to that Gabe Davis play last night too.
Yeah, so it just I don't know. You have to go back to the sideline and be like, yo, we're gonna hit that next drive. Because I see a lot of plays like that happen in the NFL, and it kind of blows my mind. It's like you ran the play and it just didn't work. The long pass gets dropped, whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, if you get that look again, run it again.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like Buffalo doesn't have the confidence to like run that next play again. Like run it again, make it happen, beat this team, get this monkey off your back. Steve Young had the same problem. Peyton Manning had a lot of quarterbacks come into the league in a couple of different ways, or a few different ways. You come in with a lot of acclaim, a lot of highlights, a lot of hysteria, and you don't pan out. You just don't you don't do it either early in your career, or it just takes a while for you to get it going.
Right.
Or you come in with no acclaim, Tom Brady, Brock Purdy, and you just happen to just win. Patrick Mahomes the same way. They thought he was a project. They were like, can't believe Andy Reid's taking this guy when he already has Alex Smith. I remember that they said that at the draft. And then he comes in and he just plays well. CJ Stroud just coming in and playing well. Bryce Young struggling. So you have all these different variances. I think with Josh Allen is like, you might get a couple of more opportunities to have a team this good to go this deep. You had a good run the last 4 years. You just came up against another team with a quarterback that just is better at making the winning play than you. It's not your fault. It's not like, oh, you're lacking. It's just one guy it's like walking into a room and it's a taller guy there. He just has that thing right now. And you're gonna shoulder a lot of the blame. Because like, yeah, there's only so much I don't play defense. I don't come up with the game plan. Like, we got to stop Mahomes collectively as a unit. Not a lot of people have done it. So it's not like those years when Phillip Rivers was like losing the playoffs and you were the only team that couldn't beat the Chargers.
Right.
No one's beating the Chiefs consistently. No one's going up there a couple times a year. I don't think anyone in division in the last 6 years has beaten them twice in 1 year.
No. And so I mean, Denver
see him every year. Multiple
Denver
times
beat them this year, and
for the first time.
That was for the first time since like 2015. And the Raiders beat them, and that was the first time in 6 tries. So Kansas City runs that.
And this is their down year.
Ask Russell Simmons, KC run you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what it is. And it ain't going nowhere because as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they have a shot.
And he seems to be willing to make team-friendly deals because he bet on himself with that 450 because people saying, oh, it's just a terrible deal. If I was his agent, I wouldn't do that. But I was like, he already had like 2 or 3 years of success when he signed that contract. So if he plays it all out, he's going to get his 450. So he's getting his $450 million.
Right.
I think he had like a 5-year extension or something. It was like, oh, that's such a bad deal. But it's like, if he really believes that, I'm going to be this guy for the next 8 years, so I'll sign this deal and I'm going to get 450. And then you got obviously off the court stuff, the Adidas, Oakley, Head and Shoulders, State Farm, just his overall just ability to be what people want Dak to do with his contract. Like that kind of like, hey, look what he's doing over there. But
so where does Buffalo go from here?
You got Josh. You got to find a way to keep the cheaper wide receivers. If you can move Diggs, I'd move them. Get whatever you can get. A couple of 5th round picks, a couple of 4th round picks, because everyone knows like he wants out. Like his brother posted on social media months ago. This is crazy. This
Mhm.
dude has 60 points and they're not working the ball through him. I've literally looked since he scored 60, I've watched him take 2 shots.
Welcome to today's NBA.
Like, I get it, Edwards, you're nice, but I'm like, give that ball to and you're only up one on Charlotte. And he has
Right.
60 points, so you're not working the ball through him with 6 minutes left in the game. Listen, I don't know. I don't understand the world. I'm trying to figure it out
But
myself.
you,
But yeah, Buffalo, like, I mean,
Josh
I,
Allen's money kicks in next year.
Josh Allen money's good. I like the I like the way their defense is set up. I think McDermott's a good coach there. I don't think you should fire him. I know I was kind of like saying that stuff this year.
You ain't got
Uh,
to say it. I'm saying it.
I don't think you should fire him because what are you gonna get?
See, people always say that. What does that mean? Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
what do you like?
Like you
You
don't. You just need something different at times. There's times where things run
We'll see
themselves
how
out.
Tennessee feels about that.
No, Tennessee, I don't know what they were doing. Like
That's
not
what I'm
even
saying.
not even the
It was
part
that
that
same.
well, not even the part that they fired Vrabel, but hopefully, I mean, we'll see if it works out. He came up under Zach Taylor. We'll see if it works out. But I think Buffalo wouldn't hire a new OC like that. You know what I mean? I think Buffalo would have a more experienced head coaching contender that they're trying to hire.
Like, where would you go? You're
If it
Buffalo.
were
You moving off McDermott and you bringing in Vrabel?
maybe, I would look at Belichick if the Falcons
You're not
don't
getting
lock him
Belichick.
down.
You're not
I
getting
would,
Belichick.
I would look, I would look at maybe going offensive, but not necessarily young like Brian Callahan because I think he's only 39. I didn't realize he was Bill Callahan's son. Um, yeah, see, there you go. Uh,
Nepotism, baby. It happens.
yeah, so I'm not advocating for Buffalo to hire, the Texans offensive coordinator or anything like that. You know what I'm
If
saying?
I was hold on, if
Maybe
I
you,
was Cat, I'd be pissed off at Anthony Edwards.
if
He keeps shooting. Like I got 62 points.
if you want to
Give
stay
me the
with defense,
rock.
if you want to stay with defense, maybe I look at somebody like Brian Flores.
Now that I like this, and I don't want an offensive coach in Atlanta because he's gonna want to call plays.
Uh
And
huh.
watching Arthur Smith over the last 3 years, him calling plays always led to situations where he's thinking about two things or three things at once,
Right.
and it ends up costing.
He's not in the game.
He's not in the game. Like I use the example of it was like a 4th and 1 against New Orleans week 1 last season. If I'm the offensive coordinator, all I'm thinking about is what play can I run next. But if I'm the head coach, I'm thinking, does this make sense to go for it here? What's the down distance? What analytics say? So I'm having at least a 15-second conversation.
Right.
Oh, he blew the layup to get
What if
64.
what if we don't get it?
What if we don't get it? Where am I at? Where's my defense at? But I'm like, if I have just an offensive coordinator, this dude got 62 points and they're down one to Charlotte with 3 minutes 53 seconds left. Uh, and he just blew a layup to get 64. So I'm taking a guy like Vrabel because he's a defensive coach. I'll take Flores, but I would want an experienced offensive coordinator, somebody that has some skin in the game, and I would run that back. I know what people want Bieniemy to get a head coaching job, but if I'm an owner, I'm like, listen, I'm gonna get this guy's head coach. You can be my OC, but I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna pay you somewhat near head coaching money. So if the head coach is average at 7 million, I'm gonna give you 5.5. So you're not. I know you want to be a head coach, but I'm gonna pay you to show you like I want you to stay here. I want you to, and I think that's a lot of it's probably that. Like, hey, this is security. I'm gonna lock you in for 5.5 million a year.
Mhm.
Maybe instead of you thinking you're the coach in waiting or you're looking for another team, if another team's not willing to come through and definitively give you 8, you're like, I'm already here, comfortable winning. getting
Mm-hmm.
5.5, 6. Why'd I want to go take over the Carolina Panthers and potentially get fired in a year? Now that taints my reputation even more.
Right.
But yeah, that's what the guy was talking about when I was talking about at work. He was talking about, you got a podcast. He was like, I would hire Bieniemy as the head coach in Washington. That's what he said. But I was like, they got purchased after he got his deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that the new regime isn't aligned to him. And if you think about his history with the head coaching positions, maybe he doesn't have that kind of like that charm you need to just kind of
Well, I don't think you
get
can
people to
hire
gravitate.
him. Well, I don't think
Yeah.
you can hire him because off of training camp, and I remember doing a 2-5 daily about
The
how
players
the
kind of
players were
feeling,
saying that he was too harsh and too this and too that. Now, for me, that's probably the type of guy that I would want in there because I'm like,
he probably
yo,
came in like, yo, when you're winning in Kansas City, you can
right,
yell at Travis Kelsey
yeah,
because he just hoisted a Super Bowl trophy. So he
right,
knows you cussing me out about not running my route at full speed will get me to the Super Bowl. Washington
right.
is like, I'm just fresh off the bus. I'm like, what are you yelling at me for? They
Well,
don't
that's
know
why
what it
that's why
takes.
like, I used to say that about Russell Westbrook, where, maybe he needed a coach that had championships, because if you were just a regular dude, he wasn't trying to listen to you. No matter how smart you were, you could have been clairvoyant, but he didn't want to hear what you had to say because you ain't done what he's trying to do. So when I look at these Washington dudes, they were used to just half-assing it, and there was no big deal made about it. So when Eric Bieniemy comes in there because he's trying to build culture to some degree, and he's like, no, I need you to do it right. Do it the way I taught you, not the way that you know it.
Yeah,
Then these guys are like, yo, what's up with this dude? It's only training camp.
they took
Exactly. This
they
is when
took them
championships
out.
are won.
But that's what I'm saying. If the Buffalo Bills players still are listening to McDermott, because like basically you're looking at it like this: if that field
On
goal
Diggs,
goes through,
right?
Stephon Diggs not listening to anybody, just him and his brother. That field goal goes through, the game's tied. Kansas City has to punt because for whatever reason, and they get the ball back, and Buffalo kicks a last second field goal and wins. How much of that extra minute of football was like, oh, this is where Sean McDermott's value is.
Right.
Like he had value before that kick, before that ball was snapped.
Right. Right.
It's one thing is like if you have a coach that's like, you're never gonna get us anywhere.
Right.
Over the hump is tough. But sometimes, like if you have a coach like, listen, you're not going to get us anywhere. You're 7-10, 7-10, 7-10. You're not going to get us anywhere. But Mike McCarthy, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5 is like, you got enough winning on your resume for me to believe in you as an owner. I think McDermott has enough winning on his resume for the leadership to believe in him. This guy has 62 points and they got him on the bench in crunch time
I
down
mean,
3.
define winning. One AFC Championship game, got punked out by Cincinnati last year on their home field.
Half like
Can't
what
beat
is it?
Kansas
Half the
City.
teams don't make the playoffs the following year.
I
So
don't know.
four
Something
so
like that.
it was like 12, 14 teams. I think now with the 14, like six or seven don't make the playoffs the following year. They made the playoffs every year. Sometimes you just got to put yourself just to have a chance. It isn't
Right.
always going to work in your favor. You
I
got to
mean,
give
and that's
yourself a
why, and
chance.
that's why you evaluate. You know what I mean? And you say, where are we today that we weren't 3 years ago? 2, 3 years ago, we were in the AFC Championship game, and we haven't got back. Meanwhile, I watched Joe Burrow make two. Mahomes that went 6 years in a row. Not you can't obviously we can't do that. That's asking a lot.
But
You
that's
know what
the
I mean?
thing that people are going to use as the argument. It's going to be like,
Well, I
oh,
mean,
well,
think
this
about it though.
other
Think about it.
team
Think
is
about it.
doing this. This other
Think,
team is built different. Their
but think
quarterback's
about it.
different.
Think about it though. You got Kansas City, right? 6 straight AFC title games. You got Baltimore entering the chat. You know what I mean? And they look like they might be around for a few years. I mean, this all changes, injuries, all that kind of. But just sitting here today, Baltimore looks like they're not going anywhere. You got Burrow was out this year. He's back next year. Jacksonville didn't make the playoffs this year. but I'm sure they'll be back.
Yeah, but I'm
CJ
not sure
Stroud.
if Burrow is really. I know people want to say he's that guy, but it's like
I mean, I'm not saying whether he is or isn't. I'm just saying the results are the
your
results.
quarterback compares to Burrow. So like
Th-
you're not lacking in
Right.
any major department. You're
But
eating, and there's no definitive move you can make that's going to make
but
that's going to put you over the top.
but
So
now but
you got
now
to run it back.
you also got a CJ Stroud and the Texans. Maybe they don't make the playoffs next year. Maybe this year, they came out of nowhere. Maybe they fall out. But even if they fall out, you still got Miami in your own division. You got Aaron Rodgers coming back. Who knows what he'll look like, but Aaron Rodgers is coming back in your division. You got the
Yeah,
Colts
but
just won.
but that's what I'm saying. So
The
what
Colts
you
just
have is
did
just a
this
bunch
without
of good
Anthony
teams.
Richardson.
Where's your benefit? Like, who are you bringing in if you get rid of McDermott? That's going to be like, oh, because we brought this guy in. You're just in the mix of the top 7 teams in your conference.
Well, that's where you
You're
ask the
in that.
question. That's
But
where
that's
you
where you
ask the
want to
questions.
be.
Has he maxed out? You have to ask that
But that's
question. I
but
don't
that's
know
where
the
you
answer
want
to
to
that
be.
question.
That's what I'm
I don't
saying.
know.
Like I think people just kind of want they put Cat on the bench again. This 62
No, I
points.
just think that like I always talk about Darren Williams and Carlos Boozer. You had 7 years. Why am I supposed to believe that now you're going to get further or you're going to do more than you did
Yeah,
to
but
this point?
that combination wasn't a situation where you were going to be competing
But we don't know what
because
Sean Dermott
basketball is different because basketball is different because all you got to do is win.
is.
You got to
McDermott a top
win
5
4 out of
coach?
7 games. I don't know how you measure that. I don't know if you measure it with team wins or if you measure it with team success. If you look at his quarterback, the quarterback has gotten better every year. So is that the coach? The defense is
I mean,
formidable
if he was
every
an
single
offensive
year,
coach, you could say that, but he's not.
but the defense is formidable every year. They're top 5, top 6, top 7 every year that he's been
With a
there.
whole lot of talent.
Well, so a lot of teams that have talent don't make it work. Atlanta has a lot of offensive talent. Are you threatened by Arthur Smith game plan with that offensive talent? No.
No, and that's why he out of there.
But that's what I'm saying. He's doing well with the talent that he has. Like, it's not like they're out there getting blown out. Like, they're out there performing every single week. My thing is like, I know it's like, oh, what are you gonna do better? It's like you're in the only spot you really could ask for as a team, which is we are among the top 3 or 4 teams in our division or our conference. We just gotta beat one of the other two every so often.
I mean, who would have thought Philadelphia was going to win 2 Super Bowls without Andy Reid?
Just one.
I mean, just one. I'm sorry, but who thought they were going to win a Super Bowl without Andy Reid after making 5 straight NFC Championship games? Like sometimes these
Yeah,
things just don't
that's a
work.
good one. I wanted to argue. I wanted to argue that, but that was a good one.
Like sometimes I'm not saying that I dislike Sean McDermott. I'm not saying that I don't think that Sean McDermott is a good coach. I'm just saying that sometimes things just run their course. Doug Collins was a good coach. They brought Phil Jackson in. They won titles. I'm not saying that Phil Jackson was the only reason because obviously Scottie Pippen had to mature and grow and develop.
Jordan, we saw the documentary.
Yeah,
Jordan had to start hitting the weights, at least the way they tell
yeah.
the story.
Sometimes these things just happen that way. I don't know. So I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it should be a no-brainer. Like, wake up, Sean McDermott's gone. Not saying that. I'm just saying y'all need to have some conversations and figure out, do we think we have another level to get to? If the answer is no, then what we doing? That's all. That's all. Saying, so I was sitting up in here, and I've been talking all season.
Baking turnovers.
Yeah, about how
You're a troll.
How
You're a troll, Mike.
How Tampa can't run the ball. They come out yesterday. They average 5.9 yards a carry on the road in a playoff game, and they only give the dude 15 carries. Baker Mayfield threw for 349 yards, but he threw 2 picks. Tampa had a chance potentially to get the ball back, But as I like to call them, dumbass Bulls, didn't want to use his last and final timeout to stop the clock and try to get the ball back. They just waved the white flag, and now they're going to go back to their fun pirate ship and, wait for August to come back for preseason. So, how impressed were you with the Lions win yesterday?
I was impressed. I'm just looking. I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Audience, if you're watching on YouTube, Carl Anthony Towns, 62 points. That was no foul player, and then they're gonna lose. He lost the ball. But it was good. It was a good effort. I'm not surprised. I think, like I said, I picked Detroit and I picked them to win like the way they did, which is basically just be physical, be smart, and just rely on your talent advantage over the Bucks. Because it was back and forth. It was a good game, but it was very similar to the Pittsburgh. I mean, the score is identical. Pittsburgh Buffalo game. You had a team that couldn't make any mistakes because you're at a talent disadvantage off the rip. Right. So they couldn't make any mistakes. And then to throw an opening drive interception kind of sets the tone. The defense did keep them in, but then Jamel Jean drops the pick in the end zone. And then Detroit ends up getting 3 points. And, they go back and forth. So the final score being 31-23 is perfect.
2-point conversion.
The 2-point conversion. I understand.
You didn't like it. You didn't like it.
I didn't like it because essentially you put yourself in a position where the expectation is if this 2-point conversion doesn't work, I got another 2-point conversion play that's going to work in crunch time later. It just doesn't seem logical because I get the mathematics of it because the argument is like, oh, yeah. I see the mathematics because I've seen another game. Atlanta did it against Washington early this year. And
Detroit tried to do it against Dallas.
No, Detroit. What Detroit did was like, I want to end it. I want to go for the win right now. But I'm talking about it was the same thing. It was like Atlanta scored. They were down 8 because they were down. They were going to be down. They could have been down 7 if they kicked the extra point. They scored a touchdown. They were down 8, and they were going to go for 2, get the ball back, score a touchdown, kick the field goal, and win. Because kicking the extra point, 62 points for nothing.
Damn shame. My Kentucky Wildcat.
They didn't get him the ball late. Like they didn't work the ball to him at all. Like if you watched it, he had like 4 or 5 shots in the.
Embiid took 41 shots to get 70.
They kept taking him out of the game. He was sitting on the bench a couple times with less than 6 minutes left. But okay, back to what I'm saying. So because it's easier to kick the extra point. So the logic of like, oh, we're going to get this quick 2-point conversion off, be down 6, get the ball back, get another touchdown, and then just kick extra point for the win. But it's like, I think even in that game, I think Slayer was calling it of the Falcons game is like, because a penalty happened. Like there was a penalty on Washington. No, it was like 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. They got the touchdown. It took a couple plays because like a couple penalties, and then they went for 2. And Slayer was like, "Listen, you only come in the game with like 3 or 4 of these plays that really work. So for Tampa Bay to go for it, then is like you're working on the fact that you don't get this. The other play you had on that call sheet is gonna pan out. So I didn't think that was. I didn't think that was feasible.
My
Detroit was never going to get rattled. They were going to go for it. They were going to dominate.
My answer.
You're stupid.
No, I like it.
What?
I like it.
Really?
Yeah. You remember when we had this conversation about Buffalo and Baltimore a couple years ago?
That was the one when Baltimore went for it on 4th and.
You remember what I kept saying in that conversation? flow of the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, Tampa wasn't stopping Detroit. So you got to take chances. They're the underdog. They weren't supposed to be here. You just got to leave it all out on the field. I'm not saying that in every situation, I think this was the right call. I'm just saying that there's circumstances sometimes when the game is going a certain way that you just go for it. And on that play, there was some face guarding going on. Mike Evans couldn't get to the ball.
That's what it said, Mike. You got to stop and come back to the ball, but it's you got I don't like plays where it has to be this way.
Right.
This has to be the best path for this situation for it to work.
Yeah. So that's my problem. My problem isn't going for two. My problem is the plays that they call when they go for two. As Cups likes to call Baker Mayfield, big play bake. Saying I have coined quick strike Mike. So I understand why you want to go to Mike Evans, but you can also use Mike Evans as a decoy.
Every team rushes that play.
Yes.
Every team, it seems like every 2-point conversion is first read go.
Yes.
You have time. And on top of that, you got plenty of space.
I mean,
if you need to drop back 5 to 10 yards.
To be fair, he had been sacked 4 times, so he probably, I ain't gonna say he was rattled, but he was probably just a little, little quicker.
But I see it a lot on that. I see it because I don't think it's a good play. I don't think it's a smart play to call in that situation because it's no finality to it. It's you have a built-in safety net saying if we don't get it, we can go for 2 later. So it's rushed. I think people make a rush decision when they make that call.
Yeah. So, Baker Mayfield, I just think that the Bucs overachieved. And I think when you're in a position of overachieving, you just push the envelope a little bit. I don't think. I mean, they stopped Detroit at the end. They could have had a chance to get the ball back if their coach would have called the timeout, but he didn't. He just waved the white flag and said no mas. With a chance to win that game. So maybe he should be fired. I mean, never mind. I
think it was. He only had 1 timeout.
I mean, you got.
I don't know if you're getting the ball back though.
I mean, it's only one way to find out, right? We've seen
because they're taking knees.
We saw crazy things. We saw crazy things happen before, but I think that Tampa should feel proud about this season. Baker Mayfield's going to want some money. We'll see if they pay him. I know Mike Evans wanted to get paid, and he gave them a hard date of let's get this done.
And they let it slide right on by.
So if you're going to bring back Baker Mayfield, I would imagine he wants Mike Evans back as well.
You got to bring back Mike Evans.
So
it's just not even smart to think otherwise. If you don't have Mike Evans, look at Carolina. Look at Kansas City this year. Look at teams that didn't have a bona fide number 1 wide receiver to marry with their quarterback and see how that worked out for them.
Speaking of which, I didn't plan on doing this, but pop quiz. Since you brought him up, how many touchdown passes did Bryce Young have this year?
20.
11.
That's it.
11.
20. I thought 20 was being generous.
Oh, obviously it was.
I thought I was I'll give him some credit.
You're Santa.
11 touchdown passes.
You're Santa with that generosity, and Adam Thielen had 4 of those.
It has to be some some quarterbacks do 4 in a game. Multiple quarterbacks do 4 in one game.
Not Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett didn't throw for multiple touchdowns all year, right?
And Bryce Young had 10 interceptions to go with it. So there you
He out
go.
there playing rec
But
football.
but before we move on, Dan Campbell, here's a message. I've been saying this all year long, and now I'm gonna take it too far. You know what I'm saying? So yesterday, Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 carries, 74 yards. David Montgomery. I always say Ty Montgomery. David Montgomery, 10 rushes for 33 yards. What are we doing? Give the ball to the dude that is going to show us that Reggie Bush was just before his time.
Listen, I like getting my speed back, my potential outside runner, 9 to 10 carries. I don't need him getting. He don't need 18 times.
No, he need like 15.
You need 15 touches, not 15 rushes. So I get him. I get him 2, 3. I get him a couple
Well, he got
screens.
4 catches too. He had 4 catches too.
Yeah, I get him a screen and a couple of screens, and then 9 to 10 rushes, and hope he can be dynamic on those 9 to 10.
And guess what? He will. Just
But
give him the damn ball.
that's all I need, because
No
all I need is that, because when I put him in the game and I'm not giving him the ball and I run that play action, now I got Amon-Ra St. Brown wide open on deep crossers, because you don't want to just overuse. I know guys have a lot of talent, but you got to use it appropriately. You got to like give it to them in these different spots. Montgomery is your banger. He's your bell cow back. He's the guy that's gonna get you 2 or 10 carries in between the tackles. Give him that. Let him beat down on the defense, and then let Gibbs hit the outside, and then work the play action. Because Jared Goff is great in play action because he's a smart quarterback, very accurate. So if you give him play action and especially the way they work the tight end, and the slot wide receivers. I'm not making my pick yet for NFC Championship game, but I'm mulling some things over.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. But speaking of which, we talked about it. 21 touchdowns, 1 interception. And then Jordan Love made 2 throws that you just can't make.
Can't throw the ball back across the middle of the field late.
And
quarterback 1-on-1, especially that deep.
Yeah. Man,
you can do it in the end zone.
Greenlaw got him both times. I was shocked, actually, though, at the success that Green Bay had running the ball against San Francisco. So healthy Aaron Jones is a monster, so hopefully he can stay healthy going forward. But this is what I wanted to talk about.
Let's hear it.
Get off Brock Purdy's nuts. Like, look, so I understand, right? Context matters. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have a good first half. I'm not going to sit up here and try to act like he did, but he didn't have any turnovers. You look at his numbers, he threw for more yards than both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. He didn't have the 2 turnovers that Baker Mayfield had. He had the game-winning drive. Now, any other, I ain't gonna say any other quarterback, hyperbole, of course, but Tom Brady does that. He's a hero.
John Elway gets the ball to Terrell Davis 900 times in 2 years.
Hero.
He's a hero.
So all I'm saying is let quarterbacks grow. Brock Purdy finished the game the way that you want your quarterback to finish the game, on a drive that can get you a win. Now, he is not Tom Brady. He is not Patrick Mahomes. But so far, there ain't a damn thing wrong with being Brock Purdy. And everybody talks about the talent that he has around him, and that's what makes him great. He did this without Debo.
Everyone needs talent.
Now,
that's how you win. That's how you win at business. That's how you win at any point. You can't play spades with just having all clubs in your hand. Like, you need some bangers in order to be successful.
23 of 39 for 252. Like, this is his second year as a starter. And he also didn't start last season right away. He came in late after Garoppolo got hurt.
And everyone
So
thought San Francisco, they thought Shanahan was done. The season was over. The Trey Lance deal was an abomination, the trade deals. And then he came
yeah,
in like, all right, cool, Mr.
and
Irrelevant. Watch
and
what I
guess
do, what I
what?
do.
And guess what? Back in the NFC Championship game for the second year in a row. Green Bay 2 for 5 in the red zone. That ain't gonna get it done against the number one seed. But I don't want to take anything away from Green Bay. That game was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Green Bay showed, even though they lost, they showed that that game against Dallas wasn't a fluke. Because
Yeah.
early in the first half, Green Bay still had open receivers. San Francisco adjusted in the second half because they're the better team, and that's what the great teams do. They come out a little sluggish, but it's time to put that vice on you and choke you out.
The missed field goal was huge
Definitely.
because that changes how Green Bay plays. They played differently with the 7-point lead and momentum, for lack of a better word, than a 4-point lead and angst.
Right.
Like, we could have been up 7. We could have just been protecting, San Francisco's not going for 2 if they score a touchdown. So you're thinking like, oh, we're not going to lose this game if we give up a touchdown. We're going to get the ball back. But being up 4, missed field goal, ball damn near midfield, because, the way when you put the ball down, missed field goal, that's where the team takes over. It's a different kind of like angst that comes over you, a different kind of like pressure. And I think they just kind of came to it.
Right.
It just was like the better team. You can't give the better team great options because they're going to capitalize eventually. They're going to have that drive where they have their all-pro running back. Granted, Debo wasn't in there, but Brock Purdy, all-pro, Pro Bowl quarterback, Kyle Shanahan, pretty good coach, pretty good win-loss record. I know his fourth quarter records, like being down 7 and all of that. It just, but like he's not out there throwing the ball. He does put it together. Like I said, I'm still a little bit bitter about the Super Bowl
Right. Right.
where he could have just ran the ball 2 times, and I would be talking about Atlanta in a way different light.
You know the new rule around the NFL, right?
Was that when in
When
doubt,
in
throw it on 4th down?
when in doubt, throw it to an Iowa tight end.
Oh, that's the new move.
That's the new move. Go get
We
you
need
an
to get one of
Iowa
those.
tight end.
Need to get one of those guys. Go get the Iowa cornerback, the white guy.
Cooper the Gene, yeah.
I like I said, I like the year that they had Green Bay. I like their playoff run. Watching the game, I was like, they might win this game. And then when they set up for the field goal, I was like, they're going to go up 7 this late in the game.
I was scared because he's missed more kicks than anybody in the NFL this year.
Like I said, in that distance, you're not thinking that guys are just going to be missing these kicks.
Yeah, when you go for 2, you're not thinking that
You're like going for 2. I think the percentage. I think the percentage of going for 2 successfully and extra points, it's probably less. Like
it
the going
probably
for
is.
2 is probably less successful. It
Yeah.
might not be that much, but most they don't go for it that often. It's not a thing that happens a lot. But like I said, in that 40 to 45 range, like I'm banking on my kicker. Those guys are kicking that with ease. I mean, the way Justin Tucker kicks 50-yard field goals is how the rest of the league kicks 40-yard field goals with just ease. And it's like, oh, this is what we do. I came out here. I'm just going to stroke this kick and we're going to go up 7 points. Like the young boy from Cincinnati, when he kicked the field goal in the AFC Championship game, and they said walking onto the field, he looked at the coach and said, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
Before he walked onto the field.
Right.
In overtime, in Arrowhead. He's like, coach, we're going to the Super Bowl. And he said he jogged out there and kicked it. I was like, but that's how most of them but that's what you expect.
Right.
I don't like Dallas's offense. It just seems jumbled. But I like Kyrie. Shout out to the boy Irvin, North Jersey in the building. So yeah, like I thought it was a good game. I think it might give Detroit a little bit of information on where the holes are with San Francisco, because there seemed to be some, because they didn't play great, and like there was like that 3-game losing streak, and this game. I think you can look at that, and you can kind of look at the Baltimore game and say, okay, what can we do to adversely affect Brock Purdy? And he doesn't have a history of coming from behind. He doesn't have a history of starting slow and then getting better. Some guys do that. Josh Allen's a guy, he can start slow and get better. Baker Mayfield's a guy, start slow, get better. Jared Goff, start slow, get better. Obviously, Mahomes, Brady. But we think about a guy like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning wasn't one of those guys that could start slow and get better as the game went on.
Right.
He had to come out and get you 3 or 7 on that first drive. Oh, my goodness. Jason Tatum with the block. So that's the thing with Purdy. Purdy is starting to kind of put evidence on tape that if you can rattle him early, he doesn't have a snap out of it moment to where he then turns it around like early on. So you rattle him in the first quarter. It's not a lot of evidence that says that, you know what, that next possession of the second quarter, he's just darting it up. He does have this final drive of this game, and maybe that's a building block. But this is one. This is one of, at this point, one of 6 times that we've seen it, because you got the loss. Well, you can't really blame the NFC Championship game on him because he got hurt
right
against Philly. So this is like the one time out of the 5 times he's really been in trouble where he has gotten his team over the hump and gotten them into the end zone. Like the Cleveland game, they got a field goal attempt out of it that was missed. That they would have won. What a stupid foul by Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Jake Moody.
Yeah, so they would have won that game with the field goal, but he didn't get them in the end zone. This time, getting into the end zone, maybe that sparks something in him. He can see like, oh yeah, I'm wired for this. I can do this.
Hey, maybe that sparks some other people on the team.
I mean,
I would like to think that your teammates believe in you, but there's nothing like doing it,
Yeah, they've been talking. They've been talking that talk all year. They've been talking that talk about McCaffrey as MVP, Brock Purdy as a winner, but they said the same thing about Jimmy Garoppolo when everyone was banging on
him. Yeah, Jimmy G's a turnover source too.
I like Jimmy G. He's gonna be a dope spokesperson when he's done with football. Yeah, I don't know why he's not better at quarterback. I have no idea why he's not better.
He could play George Clooney in a movie about his life.
Or George Clooney. Oh, he's gonna be George Clooney?
Yeah. So of course that takes us to my hometown. Hey, CJ Stroud. These things happen.
Man, it was cold on this coast this weekend.
Yeah, I brought that up.
It was 21 degrees. It was cold out here. I was in a house.
That's why I told you that was my concern. And, I saw Peyton Manning, if it makes you feel any better, CJ Stroud. I saw Peyton Manning lose a playoff game 41-0. So it happens. But basically, long story short, the better team overwhelmed the not as good team. Houston's only touchdown was a punt return. Lamar Jackson still didn't necessarily throw the ball the best, but when Houston would get them at 3rd down and long, he just tied his shoes and said, let's race. You know what I'm saying? And when you could do that, go gadget, you could win a lot of games.
And I think his teammates enjoy watching him do that. Whereas we talked about Buffalo ad nauseum earlier to start the show. We were supposed to go like 15 minutes. I think we ended up going like 30 talking about Buffalo and Kansas City. I think that the Buffalo players, when Lamar's up there just doing this thing, getting them victories, they love it. They love seeing it. I'm not sure how many targets Odell Beckham's gotten this year, but I guarantee you on those plays where Lamar's running and open, Odell's getting a block in.
Yeah.
or he's on the sideline talking about how incredible that run was, or when he runs a touchdown in, and the running back's not like, oh man, why didn't you give me the ball? I think they all believe that he is the guy that's going to get them to the promised land,
Mm-hmm.
and I like seeing it because we like to judge Lamar based off the numbers. He can go 12 for 19, 130 yards, 140 yards passing, and 7 rushes for 92 yards, and Baltimore win the game. You
Right.
know, by 20 points, and it's like you want to blow up his numbers, and the people want to chop you down with his numbers, but it's like really it's just the impact. It's the impact of having him out there on the field, and I think his teammates rally around it. I think the coach rallies around it. I just don't think there's a bad relationship between any of the groups, any of the three facets between offense, defense, special teams, or coaching. And I just think there's a very cohesive group of men that are marching towards a common goal, and I think they'll do it by any means necessary.
Yeah, I think when you see somebody like that, you just kind of marvel at it. Like I imagine, it was like this playing with Kobe at times, where sometimes you just sit back and you're just like, wow.
Can
Like,
we really ride this guy to
yeah, like
promised
like
land? It's like it
like
looks
I'm a
like it.
part of history tonight. Like when he scored 81, like I'm a part of history tonight. Like
I
just
assisted
looking
on
for
7 of those shots. Like that's me
that.
telling you, yeah,
you know
birthday parties right now, telling your grandkids about it.
Yeah, and so when I look at the Ravens, you know, um, they don't have many weaknesses. I mean, they ran for 229 yards in this game, so they didn't need Lamar to go out here and be MVP as far as throwing the ball, But I just had a thought, and I was just like, how crazy would it be, to have Baltimore and San Francisco in the Super Bowl, but it's reversed, where San Francisco had Kaepernick and Baltimore had Flacco, but now it's reversed with Jackson and Purdy. Like that's kind of crazy. But
Yeah, I
but
know
the
who Jim Harbaugh's gonna be rooting for. Hard, hard. He's like, I
hard.
hope they go. I hope the score is 52-0.
But I don't know. Houston, with all their faults and everything that happened in this game, they went into halftime tied at 10. And sometimes that's good enough as far as even if we don't have a chance to win this game, we have a chance to win this game.
Yeah,
Their defense didn't play bad per se. Lamar just played better. That's all it was. They just ran into Lamar on one of those magical days, where his legs came to the rescue. Um, but what I would like to know, and I know we're not doing picks,
correct.
but you got to give Mahomes a chance, right?
I mean, you want to, but there's not a lot of evidence to support that.
Uh huh.
Like as we dig into the numbers, but if you think about Baltimore against the top teams, to include Houston, Houston was a hot team. Uh, then you think about the San Francisco game, you think about the Miami game,
Uh
and you
huh.
think about their collective for the season. It's like they didn't. There wasn't a game where Monday morning we were talking, or Tuesday, depends if they played on Monday night or not, thinking like, oh, the Ravens have a hole that needs to be filled with new player or new coach or new scheme. Whereas
Right.
we talked about that plenty of times with the Chiefs. They need to figure out a way to get these people involved in the passing game.
Right. Right.
With Miami, it was like they need to figure out a way to get Tua to a second read, or is Tua holding them back? Josh Allen was like, is that relationship between him and Stephon? So every week, win, lose, or draw, even with San Francisco, was like when they had that 3-game losing streak, and then they had that game against Buffalo, was like, or against Baltimore. The conversation was, can they compete can they compete in games if Brock Purdy isn't masterful? Like if he makes any mistakes, can he make up for it later? Does he just keep compounding? Does he make a mistake every quarter that basically takes him out of the game? Like
Uh-huh.
the game against Minnesota, where it was like they only lost by 5, but every time they got the ball back late with a potential to take the lead or move the ball and make something happen, nothing happened.
Right.
Same thing against Cincinnati. Then, of course, he had a concussion. With Baltimore, we haven't had that question. The question we had with Baltimore was a hypothetical, like, can Lamar keep this up? Can Lamar win MVP playing like this? And it was like, yeah, he's winning. So we didn't have a real, like, we had a question, but the question felt more rhetorical because you couldn't pinpoint something that was not happening. Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't on Twitter talking about not getting passes. Zay Flowers wasn't throwing fits on the sideline. So like every question you had about their offense, there was nothing that they were doing as players, like guys in that purple, the flock as they call it. None of them were acting out in a way to where you could think something's up. Whereas, we've seen it with other teams. We saw it with teams that kept going from one quarterback to another quarterback. Like we saw with Atlanta. It's like obviously the head coach and the head quarterback aren't in line. They're going to the backup. Same
Hmm.
thing with like team like
The
Detroit.
Jets. Hmm.
The Jets. The Jets were constantly embattled in these internal turmoils that were being played out publicly, which chip at the like the
Yeah, they were talking
foundation of your
about one
team.
week where like Zach Wilson didn't even want to play.
That was the rumor. That was a leak. And then Aaron Rodgers comes out. He's upset with the leaks in the building. So that confirms
Hmm.
or at least creates another day of conversation
Enough
about
reasonable doubt to think
enough
that.
reasonable
Yeah.
doubt to think that, okay, he did say this, or there's people in the building that want him to look a certain way. So either way, it's like if it wasn't true and someone leaked it and said it was, it's like, well, you're making it like you're putting Zach Wilson in a situation where like the Jets are just completely discombobulated.
Right.
Denver. So we have all
Hmm.
these teams that just had turmoil all year long, coaches on the hot seat. Will Levis, Malik Willis, Tannehill in Tennessee, they end up firing their coach. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi pulling them in the last. We Baltimore hasn't had any of that. Even like I said, Kansas City, Sky Moore, Kadarius Tony. If I haven't done the math, but I can guarantee you they have a total of less than 10 targets since the Buffalo game, which is about 6 weeks ago. If you had to think about like, because I watched a lot of Kansas City games, I don't remember seeing Sky Moore getting a lot of targets or Kadarius Tony on the field. So that was a conversation that we were having every single week. Baltimore is just the conversation is you and I having a conversation like, do you believe that they can keep doing this? And he's like,
Right.
I want to. I have no other reason not to.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good game. We'll see what happens. As far as Houston, you know, um, could you see them? Do you think they built enough of a culture this season that we could see them in the play? I mean, obviously, we got to get through free agency and all that, but do you think they built the type of culture where we could see them in the playoffs again next year?
Yes, because I think Indy's gonna go with Richardson.
Hmm.
So that's essentially this next year is gonna be his rookie year adjacent.
Hmm.
And I can't even if they keep Gardner Minshew, I don't know if they do. I think Gardner Minshew gets another backup job somewhere else.
Hmm.
So I think they're gonna run it with him. Tennessee's gonna have a new coach. We saw this guy Callahan get hired on out of the Cincinnati staff. So if him and Will Levis can marry, or what do you do with Tannehill? However that pans out. So I think you have Derrick Henry he's been sending farewell messages for the last 4 weeks from
Right.
Tennessee.
Got to do something with Malik Willis, right?
I think you can just cut him as a third round pick.
Yeah.
I don't think you keep him. I don't think I don't know what he does for you. If you're trying to develop Will Levis, I don't know what Malik Willis does for you
Yeah.
as a team. It sounds dismissive, but the bigger,
No,
stronger
it's a good
quarterback
point.
you're gonna that's what you're gonna go with. Uh, Jacksonville they have the unique position to be where players came there over the last couple of years thinking they were going to get over the hump, and they might just be a 9-8, 10-7 team that thinks they're 13-4.
Mm-hmm.
So at 5-4 after week 10, after they're buying after week 10, is it gonna be stress in the locker room? Whereas I think
Right.
Houston, if Houston rolls into their first 10 weeks and they're 5-4, 6-3, I think they're like, okay, we can make this. We're happy with this.
We
They're
were
not
here
paying.
before.
We're not paying a lot. They're not paying a lot of guys. Their coach seems to believe in the players. The players believe in the coach. They have the fact that they won the division. Rookie quarterback, rookie coach. I have a feeling that they have a better shot at repeating as
Uh-huh.
AFC South champs, simply because, like I said, Tennessee starting over, Indianapolis essentially starting over by putting Richardson back out there. We don't know if he's good or not, and then Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing that well the first 8 games. I think we did the math. He had like nine or 10 touchdowns in 9 games.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about that because people were still trying to paint these narratives that he was the like next quarterback in the chamber to become a star. And I'm like, when?
There's something there because
Like
like
he's
like I
obviously
said,
a good quarterback, but you know what I mean.
yeah.
But where? Like
But
because
I think the
because
flooding. I think people flooding. I think free agents trades. The team is making moves as if the Jaguars are next up. So that's the piece. So it's like you're gonna start looking at it like, oh, we're bringing in free agents. We're paying linebackers $100 million. We're paying wide receivers 80 million. We're doing all this stuff because we are next up. And if he doesn't deliver, then all those other moves are going to look as if they were poor moves because
right,
the quarterback isn't getting you your
right,
24 to 27 points a game that you need to be
yeah, and I think
an upper echelon NFL team.
he will get there. I don't know if he'll get
He
to
has the weapons. He has plenty of weapons.
yeah. I don't know if he'll get to like you know the Josh Allen level and all that stuff like that, but he'll be right there. Like he'll be right below potentially. I don't. I just
If
don't.
he played like Brock Purdy, we will be praising him because he was the number one pick.
This is true.
If he
This is
had
true.
Brock Purdy numbers, it would be like, oh, look what this guy
And
did.
still banging on Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and they'll just be like, "Oh, well, he has better, Avengers or whatever Nick Wright says."
But that's the thing about it, though. Like for all the stuff that they say about Brock Purdy in that way, then why doesn't that apply to Trevor Lawrence? Why does that not apply to Justin Herbert?
Because
They got weapons too.
they're sexy. Like pause. They fit the mold. They are the quintessential 6'4", 6'5", humble, handsome, big arm, a lot of acclaim. Herbert with the arm out in LA, very humble basketball player. Excuse me, I'm watching basketball game. Very humble football player. And then Trevor Lawrence, he never complains. You never see him like sulking on the sideline. You never see him like yelling at his teammates. I think they're just like this all American look,
Mm,
that traditional
that's deep right there.
sunshine. Yeah, and that's why. Like that's why they have I think that's why they get the, I won't say acclaim, but this ins- people are inspired by the concept of their success
Right,
because they fit the mold. They
right,
just fit. Like it's like, hey, I want this guy to succeed because he looks like someone. Baker Mayfield doesn't fit that mold. So when he went number one overall, they were like, so you took a 5'11" guy, number one overall, with all these other guys available. He
right.
didn't fit the mold. So it was like, we don't like the way that looks. Alex Smith went number one overall. He probably wasn't better than Aaron Rodgers,
No,
but he fit the mold. He was clean cut, handsome, tall, successful in college. It's like, okay, we'll take it. Sam Bradford is the same way. It was like Sam Bradford was awful at Oklahoma. Always hurt. Constantly hurt. Getting tackled by college players. You gonna put him in the league with Ray Lewis and think he's gonna just magically play 16 games?
He magically tough now.
Yeah, he got $1 million per touchdown for his career. Passing touchdown. He got $1 million per.
That's crazy. You
So
know
yeah.
what I'm saying? But yeah, but Joe, we will be back on Thursday. You know what I'm saying? You know what that means? Picks. If I remember correctly, we both went 3-1 this weekend. You know,
Absolutely.
Buffalo, the only team that let us down. You know, it is what it is, though. You know what I'm
Like
saying?
we can say 3-1, but we picked the 3 home teams. So it's like I really don't even give myself any credit for it.
Yeah. But
If
you know,
I would
mean,
have gone out and picked Kansas City, but like I said, I just was sticking to my pick.
Yeah.
That I didn't think they were gonna win. So
yeah. You know what I mean? Hopefully your grandma happy. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying? He is Mr. Logical. I am 2-5.
Absolutely.
We love you. Like, review, share, subscribe, do all of it. Do it for free. We want to keep it that way. Do it for free. We'll see you in a few days.
Absolutely.
Peace.